Well, I was always very encouraged by my friend Ed, who's a retired Army colonel, who said that as a tax-paying citizen, you should be able to have access to any military installation. I saw pictures of Marines training in 29 Palms. So I called him up and I said, you know, I really would like to have access to that place. What should I do? And frankly, I was hoping he'd say, oh, I know the commander of the base of 29 Palms, which of course he didn't know. And he just said, well, go on their website and look up the phone number and call them. And that's exactly what I did. You would think that I should make something that's outwardly anti-war because I've seen so much devastation and because I've lived through war. But I was not so interested in that as I was interested in raising all these issues. The issues of landscape in war, how you have to move all that equipment, and the armies and the whole battalion, how do you move that across? And suddenly, a hill is much more than a hill. The whole idea of military strategy, of war, how do you plan something, the idea of an attack, of a battle, the gear, all of that is so fascinating to me. And one of the things I always tell my student when I look at photographs of people in the landscape is how far can you step back and still have whatever it is you're interested in describing still make sense. And so you still have to keep the tension going, but how far can you go back and still have that thing make sense? And I want to go back as far as I can. And war can be beautiful. There are moments that are absolutely horrific, but at the same time beautiful. And I've spoken to many people who've been in combat, that, it's an experience with nature. You have to learn how to manage the landscape, how to set up camp, how to deal with where you are. And the terrain, the terrain was such an important thing in Vietnam, and I think part of the reason why the war was so difficult in Vietnam for the Americans was the terrain, which was so unfamiliar to them. And I think battle only happens, 5% of the time. And so there's this sort of communion with nature that happens quite a bit, and it's that beauty that I wanted to embrace in my work. And I think that I was not so interested in making the type of work that you see in the news page, which has the effect of wanting you to condemn war immediately. So I think I just wanted to approach the idea of war in a more complicated and more challenging way.